All right, today we are heading to a place that just shouldn't exist. We're talking about Portmeirion, this incredible Italian-style village that's somehow clinging to the coast of North Wales. Seriously, just try to imagine this. You've got these pastel-colored villas, a huge piazza, even a Florentine bell tower, but it's all set against this wild, windswept Welsh landscape with the peaks of Snowdonia in the background. It honestly looks like a mirage, right? Some kind of beautiful, impossible dream. But here's the thing, it is real, and the story of how this place was even conceived, let alone built piece by piece, is actually even more incredible than the fairy tale buildings you see. Okay, so first up, let's just get our bearings and figure out what makes this place so weird and wonderful.
It's this amazing intentional paradox. I mean, it was built to feel like you're on the Mediterranean coast, this total theatrical escape. But at its heart, it's completely Welsh. It totally embraces the dramatic tides and that ancient, rugged green landscape all around it.
And when you look at the details, you start to get it. This isn't your typical village, not by a long shot. There are no permanent residents living here. There's no school, no bank, nothing like that. It's basically a purpose-built fantasy, an architectural experiment that you can actually visit. It's a whole little world designed for one reason, to delight and inspire you. So, you gotta wonder, right? Who on earth comes up with something like this? Well, the whole thing boils down to one absolutely extraordinary and, probably very stubborn man.
Yeah, to really get Portmeirion, you have to get its creator, Sir Clouth Williams-Ellis. Now you gotta remember the time period. The world of architecture was all about stark, gray, concrete modernism. And then there's Clouth, championing joy and color and pure whimsy. He was this passionate environmentalist, a super flamboyant character. He was famous for wearing these bright yellow stockings, and he just absolutely hated ugliness.
And this quote right here, this is everything. Portmeirion was basically his 50-year-long argument against all the thoughtless, boring development he saw scarring the British countryside. He actually called it his propaganda for good manners in building. It was his living, breathing proof that you could build on a beautiful spot without totally wrecking it.
I mean, just look at this timeline for a second. He buys the land in 1925, and he's still adding the final touches in 1976. He was 93 years old. This wasn't just some project for him. It was his life's work, his absolute obsession, a dream he built, one piece at a time over 50 years.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Clouth didn't just build everything from scratch. Nope. He had this really clever and, let's be honest, pretty thrifty way of making his brand new village look like it had been there for hundreds of years. He was a total master of what we'd probably call architectural upcycling today. He basically treated the whole country like his personal salvage yard, rescuing these gorgeous bits and pieces from grand old buildings that were being torn down all across Britain after the war.
The town hall is the perfect example. Get this, he wasn't even planning on building a town hall. He just found this absolutely incredible piece of history that was literally destined for the scrap heap, and he decided, you know what, I have to build an entire building just to save this one thing.
And how much did he pay for this masterpiece? £13. Can you believe that? 13 quid for a priceless 17th century Jacobean ceiling. It was just this incredible act of rescue, saving a piece of art that would have been gone forever otherwise. And Clough himself called it a home for fallen buildings. What a perfect description, right? You've got the Bristol colonnade, a Jacobean staircase, Gothic pavilions. Portmeirion is this amazing collage of rescued treasures. Each one has its own story, and he stitched them all together to make something completely new. It really shows what he believed, that beauty is something to be saved, not thrown away. But it's not just about the buildings. Portmeirion is just layered with all these strange stories, a surprising amount of pop culture fame, and just this feeling of mystery in the air.
Even the land itself has this quirky history. There's a dog cemetery from a super reclusive lady who used to live there. There are local legends about hearing bells from a mythical sunken kingdom just off the coast. You find weird things everywhere, like a statue of Buddha that was a gift from a visiting lama. But its biggest claim to fame, its biggest secret, was its starring role in a TV show. So back in the 60s, this actor, Patrick McGoohan, picks Portmeirion to be the setting for his cult classic show, The Prisoner. And this is what's so brilliant about it. He takes this place, which was built to be all about freedom and joy and creativity, and he twists it. He turns all that beauty into something unsettling and sinister. The colorful buildings suddenly feel like a prison, a gilded cage. It just goes to show you how thin that line is between a perfect paradise and a perfect prison. So, when you add it all up, what's the real legacy of this 50-year fantasy? Well, it's way more than just a pretty place to visit. Right from the start, there was just something about Portmeirion's atmosphere that drew in creative people. They were looking for inspiration, for an escape. You had Noah Coward writing his famous play Blithe Spirit here in the middle of World War II. The legendary architect Frank Lloyd Wright came and loved it. Even George Harrison from the Beatles celebrated his 50th birthday here. It just became this cultural hotspot.
And that's where you see its deeper importance. Clough used the fame he got from the village to fight for the environment. He was a huge part of establishing Snowdonia National Park. And in terms of architecture, his playful mix-and-match style, all those bold colors, he was decades ahead of his time. It was this joyful protest against boring buildings that kind of foreshadowed the whole postmodern movement.
At the end of the day, Portmeirion is proof, right? It shows that one person's bold idea, if they stick with it long enough, can create something truly magical that lasts. And it kind of leaves you wondering, what if we decided to build things today not just because they're practical, but because they bring joy and beauty into the world? What kind of beautiful, impossible things are we just not thinking of yet?